welcome to Some of Your Parts podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, premier pelvic health expert and women's wellness warrior. Join me as we discuss women's wellness topics and discuss tips and tricks with top elite health experts, and where you'll discover that you're greater than the sum of your parts. Okay, everybody, we got another amazing episode, and we are here with Dr. Kyrin Dunston, and I can't wait for you to talk to her. So thank you, Dr. Kyrin, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Betsy. Super excited to be here.
So I am really excited. You have a program coming up. Can you tell me, because this is like combining everything. I'm just going to stop and say this. It's combining everything I need to know about. Kind of hormones, it's weight, and just metabolism,
energy, fatigue, like sleep, sex drive, hair, mood, memory, all the things that we women over 40 care about, right? Like, think of all the women you know over 40, if you're watching, and what health complaints do they have? There's like a list of at least 60 symptoms on the what I call midlife metabolic mayhem symptom sheet. 60 plus symptoms that a lot of women over 40 experience. It's a rare woman who doesn't have that. What's the topic when you go to that church luncheon? What's the topic at your book club? Everybody's like, oh, I'm dealing with this thing with my health and I don't know what to do about it. You fill in the blank. I can't sleep. I'm waking up at 1 a.m. and I don't know why. And my doctor tells me there's nothing wrong, that all my tests are normal, right? Or somebody else says, oh, my periods have turned into a crime scene and I'm just worried every month something's wrong. But my doctor says it's really nothing problematic and just to take a birth control pill. But then that never makes you really feel like yourself. Or you're living like a roommate with your partner and you guys haven't had sexual intimacy in so long. Nobody's bringing it up. It's like the elephant in the room, but it's really a big problem. And then you're secretly afraid, oh, is my partnership going to end because I don't ever care if I have sex again? I mean, you fill in the blank. You've got it. Your friends have it. All women over 40 are experiencing these symptoms. So that's what we're here to talk about: midlife metabolic mayhem and what to do about it.
I love that. You're right, because that's the problem. I mean, and we're trained gynecologists, and this kind of got brushed over in our training. And then as women, I'm thinking to myself, like, all of a sudden, I'm trying to figure out everything. And I'm like, and I at least have some of the background of being an OBGYN, and I'm like, what is going on?
It's so true, Betsy. Like, we were trained the same. We had the same OBGYN board certified training. You've had advanced training in pelvic surgery, of course, that I didn't take. But here I was in my late 40s and experiencing all kinds of symptoms, right? I was obese. I weighed 243 pounds. I was so tired that all I had energy to do was basically sleep, get dressed, go to work, come home, pass out, sleep, get dressed, right? I was a wife. I was a mom. I didn't have time for anything else, not for my kids, not for my husband, not for myself. I had depression so severe that I was on 5 psychoactive medications at one time. I had depression, anxiety. I had chronic fatigue. So I was tired. I had fibromyalgia, which for those of you who don't know is pain in the body on a daily basis in consistent places for at least 6 months that interferes with activities of daily living. I had that, gastritis, irritable bowel, and I looked and felt 20 years older than I was. I didn't care if I ever had sex again. And here I'm trained in OBGYN. I see women every day do their pap smears. I'm delivering babies. I'm doing hysterectomies, prescribing birth control pills. And nothing that I learned, that we learned in our training, taught me how to deal with the symptoms I was dealing with, right? There were like drugs that I could take to help with certain symptoms, but none of them ever really restored me where I said, oh my gosh, I feel like myself again. Where was this drug all my life? This is amazing. And if you're watching and you're a woman over 40, you know what I'm talking about, because either you've experienced this or your friends have. You leave the doctor's office with a fistful of prescriptions, sometimes 3, 4, 5. You go to the pharmacy, you're so hopeful, you get them filled, you get them home, you're like, oh my God, please let this be the answer. And then you take them and you might get some improvement in the symptom, right? So maybe you get a birth control pill, your crime scene periods aren't so crime scene-y anymore, but you still just can't lose the weight and you're still tired, right? Nothing fixes it. Or you take that antidepressant and you don't feel as blah, like I don't want to do life, but you never feel like, oh, I feel good in my skin again. I feel like myself. I am joyful. So here I was, I'm board certified. I'm supposed to know more about women's health than anyone else. My health is clearly suffering. I couldn't figure out the problem. This went on for years. I went to my doctor. She'd say, okay, she'd like almost roll her eyes. Here comes Kyrin again, thinking that there's an answer for the things that are unanswerable. Maybe your doctor rolls their eyes when they see you. You know what I'm talking about. Um, and she'd say, okay, we'll run labs again. And she would run labs again. I'd say, oh, I have to have a thyroid problem, right? I have the top 5 symptoms. I'm tired, I'm overweight, my hair's falling out, I'm constipated, and I have dry hair, skin, and nails, and hair loss, right? Those are some of the most common symptoms. No matter, I had checked my thyroid at least 10 times, she had checked it and it was quote unquote normal. So then she run it again. And this last time that she ran it, she's like, okay, I want you to come to my office for the results because I'm not doing this anymore. She said, there's nothing wrong. And so I was so nervous thinking, oh my gosh, she's not going to find anything wrong. What if I'm just crazy? And maybe that's you too, trying to go to different doctors, trying to find the answers. And you're told every time, oh, there's nothing wrong. You just need to fill in the blank. You just need to decide to have sex with your partner and do it anyway. You just need to get in bed at a certain time and like meditate, and that's going to help you sleep all night. You just need to eat less and exercise more. You fill in the blank with the stupid advice that we doctors have given you that hasn't worked. And I was so afraid she was again going to say, your tests are normal. There's nothing wrong with you. In parentheses, you're just crazy. And I know you've thought it too.
Yes.
And so I go over to her office. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to say it again. And she said it again. Your tests, and this time she yelled at me, your tests are all normal. There's nothing wrong. You just need to eat less and exercise more. Never mind, I had no energy to walk down the street or walk around the block. And I went to my car and I got in the car and I just started crying. And I felt so helpless and so hopeless and so alone, like, oh my God. I went into medicine to help women. I wanted to get the biggest toolbox I could possibly have to help women with their health, because that was my passion. So I was like, oh, I'll get my MD. And here I am. I'm supposed to know more about women's health than anyone. And I can't even freaking help myself. There's no hope for any woman on this planet. I cried and cried. And I even got to this place where I said, if this is what life is, I don't even want to live it. And maybe you've been there too, right? Right now, I know, and maybe it's some of you watching, someone stretched across her bed crying because she's looking on social media and seeing all her friends having a ball and these celebrities that are like, they're thin and energetic. Why can't I be like that? And you think, what's wrong with me? Only thing wrong with you is that you haven't been given the truth and you haven't been shown the way. There is a way out. Unfortunately, you're going to the hardware store for milk. Your doctor doesn't have this information to share, right? Betsy and I, we were your doctors 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They have the same education that we had. They don't know any more than we knew back then, and we didn't know anything. Now we've gotten additional training and we know the way to show you. That's why we're here, that we can help you. So if nothing else, I want you to get from today, and if you choose to come to my program, that your right to brilliant health is assured. You're just going to the wrong place. That's the only thing wrong with you. We're going to show you the right way to go to get your needs met so that you can lose the weight, regain the energy, get your hair back, get your sex back, get your mojo back. That's what I'm talking about. Get in your jeans, your favorite high school jeans, and get your mojo back and get out of midlife metabolic mayhem.
You know, I love this because, I was just thinking, I have a girlfriend, I was talking to her the other day, and she's going through this too. And I'm just trying to talk to her, but her answer for this is cosmetic surgery. And I'm like, she is getting things sucked and tucked. And I'm like, listen, you could do it first of all, a lot cheaper. There's a lot of other ways you can do it without the risks of, of all the cutting and stuff, So
Well, and the other thing, Betsy, I'm not against plastic surgery
I'm
at
definitely
all.
not either.
But what I will say is that's not going to fix your fatigue.
Yeah.
It's not going to make your hair grow. It's not going to give you your sex drive back. It's not going to fix your crazy irritable bowel. It's not going to fix any of that. Right? Whatever gets nipped and tucked is going to look nipped and tucked. So it's great for the outside world and when you look in the mirror, but it doesn't fix anything on the inside. So go for the plastic surgery, but fix the inside first.
I like that. All the plastic and surgery in the world is not going to fix your fatigue.
It's not.
Oh my God. So you'll look good, but you'll still be exhausted. Yeah, no. So where do you start with, like, where's your favorite place to start when it comes to like reversing this craziness?
I love that question. So, where do you start when you're going to build a house, right? I've built a house before. Maybe you have, maybe some people watching. It was an experience. I'll never do it again. I will find one already built. That's exactly the way I want it because it's a project. So, where do you start? You start with the foundation. You got to dig down into the ground, pull out the dirt so you can sink whatever you're going to make the foundation out of: cement, concrete, steel, rebar, whatever. And what is the foundation for women? So one thing you ladies have to realize is that you kind of weren't taught the truth about your health. And so part of fixing your health over 40 requires you to have a re-education or an education for most of us in how your body works as a woman. And I was taught, probably you were too, Betsy, that as a medical student and OBGYN resident, that women are just little men and we function the same, except women have this little accessory pack that allows them to procreate and make babies and feed babies. So it's kind of like that little specialized black purse you have in your closet up in the back top shelf that you get out once a year for that black tie dinner, that you put on with your black tie outfit and your little black purse. That's like the accessory pack that women have that makes us different from men. That's really how we're taught. And it's like there's your overall health, and then there's your accessory reproductive pack. Nothing could be further from the truth. We women are foundationally different from men because of our hormones, determined by our XY or XX chromosomes in utero that determine the hormones that are present that help our brains to shape and be the way they are. Like it's proven with many studies that women actually biologically, we can multitask because of the way our brains formed under the influence of estrogen in utero. Men don't have that ability. So we are foundationally different. And why is this so important? We're also taught that hormones are a little accessory pack, but they're not. So your brain is your mainframe computer that regulates your entire system. And just like the internet that comes in your home to bring information, you've got the hardwired internet where you can plug your computer in, and that's like your hardwired nervous system from your brain to all your body parts. And you've got the wireless internet in your house that wirelessly communicates. And in your brain, you have wireless communication to all the organs in your body. Well, that wireless communication is your hormones. It's your hormones, right? So they all your nerves and hormones come from your brain and they regulate everything in your body. So just like at home, your hardwired internet is probably pretty stable. It doesn't go out often. If you want a good connection, you plug your computer in. What happens with the wireless internet? I don't know about yours, but mine's going out all the time. There's a storm. There's a problem with the signal coming from the router. My computer can't read the signal. It's on the wrong IP address. I mean, you name the problem, you get spinning wheels all over the place. Well, the same is true of your hormones in your body. So communication is the most important aspect of any system in order for the system to function optimally. Your body is a system. It's a city. So like when there was Hurricane Katrina and they lose phone lines and roads are blocked and people don't have homes or electricity and they're all in shelters, what's the first thing that has to happen for them to restore functionality to that area? They have to get communication back. They need to get phone lines up. How many hospital beds do you need, right? What food do you need? Women were out of, this appalled me, women were out of menstrual supplies, right? They didn't have pads and tampons. Can you imagine? What do they need? Communication. We need pads, y'all. Bring us some tampons. So communication is most important. In your body, it's no different. If your brain is not able to communicate to all your cells and organs what needs to happen and when and how much and how fast, the system starts failing and then you can't sleep. Then your periods are crazy. You have no sex drive. You're depressed. You're anxious. Your gut is crazy. You're developing breast cancer. All these things are going crazy. Your hormones, which are foundationally different from a man's, that's the foundation of your health. So where do you start, Betsy? You dig in the ground and you fix your hormones. If you don't fix your hormones, the communication isn't right. It doesn't matter where you try and start. I know some people who have gone and gotten training and they're like, oh, it starts with gut health. You got to fix the gut first. I'm going to teach you how to fix your gut. If you don't fix your hormones, the communicators, one, you'll probably never fix your gut. And two, it kind of won't matter because your hormones are still giving the wrong signals, right? I'm trying to think of a good analogy, and I'll have to think of one for that because one's not coming to me right now. It's like if you have a communication problem with your teenage son, and they keep their room a mess. And you work with an expert who meets with you and your son and says to him, well, you just need to clean your room. And you're like, I've been telling him this. It's not like telling him this is going to make him go do it. So she goes in the room, the consultant, and stands over him, pick that up, fold that, put that away. So the room gets clean, but you haven't fixed the communication with your son. You haven't fixed the reasons why he doesn't see the value in a clean room. You haven't fixed it for all time. You went in there in military style, beat him over the head and forced him to do it. That doesn't fix the problem. So it's the same with trying to fix your gut first. Or I've seen some people say, oh, you need to fix your brain health first. That'll do it, which can help. But it's all about your hormones, your main 7 metabolic hormones. So that's where you have to start.
Ooh, now you just mentioned something with the 7 metabolic hormones. So now I'm gonna go, wait, what are the 7 metabolic hormones?
Right. So this is the other thing we women haven't been taught properly. We're told that the problem is our sex hormones, right?
Yeah.
That's everything wrong with women. That's why we're PMSy. That's why it's that time of the month. That's why everything that's wrong with women happens.
Yeah.
And that's not true, y'all. There are other hormones that interact with those 3 sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, that determine a great deal. I mean, if I had to give it a percentage, I'd say sex hormones, let's say 40%, 60% for the others. So if you're not addressing all the hormones, you're missing it. And I see women doing this, right? They're like, oh, seed cycling for my sex hormones. I'm on a seed cycle. But then they don't understand why they can't lose weight and they still don't sleep. Maybe some things are better. Like, I'm only going to address my sex hormones. Or, oh, my doctor said I just need a birth control pill or a Depo shot or a laparoscopy, and that's going to fix me. But what we don't realize is you've got insulin, you have thyroid, you have cortisol, you have DHEA, you have many more hormones than that. But those 4 plus the 3 sex hormones, I call the 7 main metabolic hormones. They really are the determinants of how your body treats calories that it takes in. So what determines your weight? Calories that you take in, calories that go out. And so if these hormones are determining what your body does with those calories, if your body is hoarding them and going, oh, I got to keep all these calories, let me pack them over here, let me pack them on my belly and never let them go, right? In order to fix those symptoms, you have to work with those hormones. So yes, those are the 7 main metabolic hormones that you got to start with.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing, because I didn't even know. I'm like, wait a minute, 7, because I was doing the same thing. I'm going, wait, there's 3 that I know of. But thank you so much for that. That's the other thing too, is that a a lot of times I'll get people coming in and they just go, well, I'm having this problem, I'm having that problem, like, give me hormones. And then they start mentioning other symptoms like the fatigue and the brain fog, but they don't 100% make that connection all the time to the hormones. And this is something that we were not taught in medical school, that these hormones are neurotransmitters. And
Yes.
yeah, I would like you to
Yeah.
comment about that too.
Yeah, we're not. And so, right, they all originate in your brain, nerves and neurotransmitters and hormones. And what most people don't realize, so let's say this half of my body is the nerves. So I have neurons, these long specialized cells that then secrete at the end neurotransmitters that go across a synapse that are received by another neuron that takes that information and travels it down another neuron, and so on and so on. So it's like telephone, right? One nerve tells the next nerve, tells the next nerve. But your hormones are the same thing, but the nerves are so tiny, they're just really itty bitty bitty on this side of the body, right? Really itty bitty. So that's the neuron. And then the neurotransmitter is secreted by those specialized cells. But instead of going across a little itty bitty synapse, it travels through your bloodstream, maybe 2 feet, to be received by another specialized nerve cell, right? Hormonal receptor. So it's just that they look different, right? One is big sausages, little links. One is little sausages, big links. So they're really the same thing, and they're all part of the same system, which leads me to another thing. If you have neurotransmitter symptoms, right? Depression, anxiety, by definition, you also have a hormone problem, right? None of these neurotransmitters or hormones works in a vacuum. They're a symphony. So when you go to the symphony, what do you have? Like a plethora, an array. You've got the bass, and you've got the violas, and the violins, and the cellos, and you've got the wind section, and you've got the flutes, and you've got all these different instruments. They all succeed together, or they all fail together and sound like a cacophony. It's the same with your hormones and your neurotransmitters. So you've got to start with that as a woman in order to heal the midlife metabolic mayhem, all the 60 plus symptoms, and prevent disease and prevent early death, by the way.
I'm sure you get this question a lot, but Dr. Kyrin, you're talking about hormones, but don't hormones cause cancer?
Oh yeah, I get that all the time. No, they don't. So if hormones cause cancer, so every man, woman, and child on the face of this planet, 8 billion people, has hormones. If hormones cause cancer, every man, woman, and child on the face of this planet would have hormones. So I'm always a common sense person first and down to earth. Like, does that make sense to you? No. So where does this belief come from? Because it is a belief, and beliefs are not necessarily true. So let's fact check it. So, it was observed. So 150 years ago, women didn't live any time in menopause. Like, our lifespan ended before or at the age of menopause. So we were pretty much reproductive until we died. So it wasn't an issue. But then with the advent of modern medical advances, we over doubled our lifespan in just over a century, which is amazing. Okay. We have excelled at acute care. So now all of a sudden you have millions of women, 2 million women a year go into menopause. At least 50 million women a year are in menopause at any given time. And now you have this substantial proportion of the population that is living 1/3 to 1/2 of their life in menopause, which is a state of hormonal poverty. By design, our ovaries are only made to last about 50 years, and that's when they poop out and they stop making majority of our estrogen, progesterone, and about half of our testosterone. So these hormones that nourished us to grow to become healthy, beautiful, intelligent, capable women now go away when we're not done our life, and we have to live without them. So It's kind of like you get to eat the first half of your life, and then all of a sudden there's no food and you have to live with no food. How well are you going to do? Not so well. But we seem to think it's insane, right? Most doctors believe that, oh, you should just be fine without your hormones, but it's not true, because those are the things, the very hormones that nourished our brain to develop to the beautiful intricacy and capability to multitask and other things that we have. But it's kind of insane to think, oh, then the brain doesn't need that. And the studies bear this out, right? There's studies that have shown increased risk of Alzheimer's disease, dementia, next to cancer, second to cancer. Alzheimer's and dementia is the thing that women and men both fear the most as they age. Studies have documented that hormonal poverty of menopause significantly increases your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. And studies have shown up to a 79% reduction in your risk of getting Alzheimer's if you use hormones. So there are many studies like this, right? You have, I call these hormones flex hormones, not sex hormones, because why? They have flexible functions in the body. They're not just about sex. We need to stop calling them sex hormones, because that makes us think, oh, it's just about me having a period and a baby. And nothing could be further from the truth. Every cell, every system in the body has receptors for these cells. You have flex hormone receptors in your eyes. Your eyes depend on these flex hormones to be healthy. In menopause, you have an increased risk of macular degeneration, which is the leading cause of blindness in menopausal women. And studies have shown that the use of hormone therapy reduces the risk by over 50% of getting macular degeneration. Heart disease, heart attack, #1 killer of women over 50. You have receptors for these flex hormones in your heart. And studies have shown that hormone therapy reduces your risk of dying from a heart attack and stroke significantly. So this issue of it causing cancer was, most doctors understood that the benefits of using flex hormone therapy. And then they went and did the Women's Health Initiative study 20 years ago at Kaiser Permanente on 17,000 women, where they stopped the trial early because they found an increased risk of breast cancer with synthetic hormones, hormones that are not the same as what your body naturally has. So what do I mean? It's like people are concerned about oranges at the supermarket. And so they want to know, do oranges cause cancer or not? So they go, we'll test apples because we don't have enough oranges, because we're up in the north and it's not a tropical place where they grow oranges. So we're just going to test apples because it's a fruit, and fruits are fruits and it doesn't matter. So we're going to test apples, and we found apples increase the risk of breast cancer. Fruit increases the risk of breast cancer. Oh my gosh. And I remember that day, maybe you watching remember that day, because the phone was ringing off the hook in our office, because all women on their hormones heard the news on the study on the news. Estrogen causes breast cancer. Stop your hormones. And like all the official bodies of ACOG and Family Medical Association, they're like, come off your hormones. And the truth is that, #1, they didn't test the hormones you naturally have in your body. They tested hormones that are different from what your body naturally has. Horse estrogen. Are you a horse? You are not a horse. And medroxyprogesterone acetate, which is not progesterone, right? You don't have any of these things naturally. Those are drugs. They did not test your hormones. They tested foreign synthetic drugs and found that there was a problem. Now, having said that, they've even done reanalysis on this study over the 20 years since it. The authors of the study have basically come back and said, it was a crappy study. We didn't design it well. The conclusions we came to were wrong. And not only do synthetic hormones not cause breast cancer, but they help to be protective against it. But have you heard that on the 5 o'clock news? Has it been on the front page of the New York Times? No. Why? Because it doesn't scare you. And unfortunately, when it comes to media, they're all about your eyeballs on their stuff And what biologically are you programmed to get your eyeballs on their stuff about? Things that scare you. So it never made front page news. Even the professional organizations that make the recommendations about these hormones aren't aware and aren't looking at the literature and don't even know. But you're here now, so you know the truth. So this about estrogen causes breast cancer, no. So the other thing I'll say, that's why you think it causes breast cancer, is that, okay, we already established every man, woman, child has estrogen. We all don't have breast cancer, so it's not estrogen, but it's what your body does with the estrogen that it does have. So what do I mean by this? And I know a lot of you are going, what are you talking about, Dr. Kyrin? My doctor never talked to me about what my body does with my estrogen. I know you've never heard those words come out of your doctor's mouth, because it didn't come out of my mouth or Betsy's mouth either 20 years ago. But now we know your estrogen is designed to promote health in your cells. But then everything your body makes or takes in, it has to get rid of, or it becomes toxic, right? All the liquids you take in, you extract what you need, and then you discard the rest as urine. If you don't discard urine, it backs up as too much water and you will eventually die. Same thing with solids you take in. You extract what you need, you put the waste out as stool. If you can't get rid of that, it stays in you and you explode and die. So you have to get rid of everything. It's this constant process of extraction, taking in, extracting, discarding. Estrogen your body makes, it has to use it, and then it has to get rid of it. If you don't get rid of it, it just compounds and gets more and more. And that's actually why a lot of you are suffering right now, because you have too much estrogen you're not getting rid of, which is a common thing that especially younger women will go through, 20s, 30s, sometimes teenagers, until they get to the menopause deprivation poverty stage. And your liver is the organ responsible for getting rid of your estrogen. It sends it through the processing plant. I call it your sanitation department. If your sanitation department isn't working optimally to handle it and package it and tag it and get it out, it's going to turn into these abnormal forms that do promote breast cancer. And then you are at increased risk. And this is why when you work with a practitioner on your hormones, number one, you need the right tests read the right way. And that's not blood work. And this is something else we can talk about. But in my opinion, you need a Dutch test or dried urine metabolite test that also looks not only at your 3 types of estrogen levels, progesterone, testosterone, but also looks at the 2 phases of estrogen detoxification in the liver. And genetically, how are you programmed to get rid of this stuff? And in real time, how are you doing it? Are you doing it well enough? And do you need help there? So this whole fear around estrogen causes cancer, that's the party line you're going to get from your doctor, because they don't know better. They also practice, what's the name? Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. I haven't thought of it so long, but the type of medicine where it's defensive medicine, they're not going to do things that are for your health because they're so afraid of everything. They're going to do the minimum. And unfortunately, how that translates to you is you don't get the care you need because they're uninformed, and they have what I call contempt prior to investigation. So that's what defensive medicine will get you. But if you want something else, you're going to have to get someone who took the extra steps to get educated to know what's safe and what's not for you. So if you're believing that and your doctor's telling you that, that person probably is not up on the latest literature and what is available for us.
I know, isn't it? It's crazy because, like, I know with you and me, like once that my eyes have been open to this stuff, it's like I can never go back. It's like I can't unsee the truth, and I'm going, why don't all these other doctors know this stuff? Like, why aren't you guys trying to find it? But they don't know what
It's
they
so
don't
true.
know. That's the problem.
Well, and I always say, because the first question, when women go through my challenge, my 7-day program, and then they get it and that light bulb goes on, they want to know, why doesn't my doctor know this? Why isn't my doctor telling me this? And they're mad, which is justified. And what they don't understand is that the business of medicine, mainstream medicine, I call it corporate medicine, it's a business. It's a for-profit business. And it has a certain agenda. And that agenda crafts the way all our research is done and funded and the results and what is available to you to have or not have. And it is about your health, but it's kind of not about your health. It's about your health that's profitable. But the parts that aren't profitable, it's not about, because it's a for-profit industry, right? You got big insurance, big healthcare, big pharma, and big food, all for profit. And they profit over keeping you alive longer, but in a sick condition where you need a lot of medications and drugs, surgery, and you need to be medicalized a lot. That churns a lot of profit. So looking to strategies that actually improve your baseline health naturally, like educating you about your diet, educating you about exercise, educating you about inflammation, about hormones, which biologically identical or natural hormones are pretty inexpensive, right? There's no profit in these things. So this is why you're not going to find that in the majority of healthcare practices, things that are covered by insurance, offered in medical facilities or hospitals. You're just not going to find it. You're going to find open heart surgery for $150,000 because that's going to keep the hospital lucrative, where they can stay in business. But they're not really interested in talking to you about your natural estrogen and how that can help you, because there's no profit in that for them.
Yeah. This has been great. So where can people find out information about this challenge? Because I think every woman needs to take it.
Well, you've got a link, for your people, your tribe.
Yes.
Dr. Betsy has a special link that she's going to give you. You can jump on the internet, just paste that link. It'll take you to the page where you can find out more and sign up. But I'm going to take you personally through 7 days. We're going to meet on Zoom. You'll get to talk to me, ask me your questions. I love that. That's my favorite part. And I'm going to give you some real talk, real girl talk, real doctor talk, real human talk about what's really bothering you and what's really causing it, that you're not going to get at your $30 HMO neighborhood copay doctor's office. So I'm going to help you understand why you're dealing with the things you're dealing with, why you haven't found the solutions that you need, what are the right tests that you need, how do you learn how to read those tests, how do you go about addressing these 7 main metabolic hormones, all the things, hormones, how do you get out of hormonal poverty? That's what I'm going to show you how to do, and how you can live in hormonal prosperity.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for everything that you do, Dr. Kyrin. And thank you for being here. And my favorite are your metaphors. Like, I could just listen to your metaphors all day long.
They come out of nowhere, like the sausage one. I never said that before, but I kind of like it. Big sausage, little links. Little sausage, big links. So, but thank you for drawing it out of me. It is because of you watching that I do what I do. I made a promise when I learned about this type of healthcare and medicine and doing a root cause resolution approach that I would spend the rest of my life helping as many women as possible with this. So you being here allows me to fulfill my mission. And for that, I am so grateful.
I just want to once again thank you, Dr. Kyrin, and everybody. Just remember, make sure you're subscribing to Some of Your Parts podcast. Like, follow, tell your friends, because they need this too. And also, when you're there, go check out Dr. Kyrin and myself both on social media. Make sure you're following us so that you keep up to date with all the things that we're doing. And tune in again next week for another episode. All right. Thank you, Dr. Kyrin.
Thank you for having me.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Pelvic Floor Store, your source for personal health. You can find us at www.pelvicfloorstore.com.